In 2022, I brought my dad to one of his favorite places on Earth, Cannon Beach, Oregon, for a day of film photography. Despite being a longtime photographer, this was the first time my dad shot a roll of film in nearly 20 years. And when we were talking about the significance of shooting photos in Cannon Beach, I mentioned that there were 3 places that came to mind when considering where my dad absolutely loves to travel to: Cannon Beach, the North Shore of Oahu, and Norway. It was at this moment we both spontaneously decided that this series would have to become a trilogy.
Well, there can be sequels, can't there?
It's a 3-part, actually. It's a trilogy.
All right, a trilogy.
Over 2 years later, we found ourselves in Norway, where my dad lived for 3 years. Over the next 2 weeks, my dad and I will be exploring some towns we haven't visited before, taking in the stunning scenery of the Lofoten Islands, traveling back to the city I was born in, and of course, taking plenty of photos along the way. This is episode 2 of the unexpected 3-part series of shooting film with my dad. We began our trip in a town neither of us had visited before, Tromsø, which sits in the Arctic Circle and is the largest urban area in northern Norway. Tromsø provides endless outdoor opportunities like skiing, hiking, sailing, kayaking, fishing, mountain biking, and even dog sledding. However, for my dad and I, we found the fjordside sauna sessions to be our go-to outdoor activity while in town. There's something about bringing your body right to the brink of complete physical collapse and then jumping in the Norwegian Sea to cool off that just feels wonderful.
It wouldn't last 10 minutes in that water.
For this trip, my dad was actually primarily shooting on his Fuji X100V, but I brought along the Canon AE-1 with some color and black and white film for him to shoot as well. We strolled around town, my dad switching between his X100V and the Canon AE-1 with a roll of Ultramax 400 loaded up. I was shooting on the Mamiya 7.2, the majority of these shots were on the 43mm lens, which I feel like I praise more and more in each video, but man, I absolutely love this lens. Unfortunately, my dad was limited to a 50mm lens on the Canon AE-1. He mentioned that he wished he had something like a 28 or 35 to capture more of the scene he wanted to photograph. Him and I are both similar in that we really enjoy capturing as much as possible within the frame, which is why nowadays I pretty much only shoot on an ultra-wide angle lens, unless I'm shooting portraits with a specific vision in mind. Yeah, that's just one little slip away from...
I know. It even makes me nervous.
We crossed over the Tromsø Bridge where the Arctic Cathedral greets you. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I'm susceptible to falling into a good old power stance from time to time when taking a photo. Well, now I know where I get it from. I've never seen anyone with a more prominent power stance than Big Mike here. And don't worry, it only gets better as the trip goes on. Shooting photos with my dad is funny. He doesn't go out with a camera with the intention of taking pictures all that often, but when he does, you'd think he's been doing it every day for the past 40 years. Everywhere he looks, he's looking with the perspective of a photographer, always evaluating what could be a good frame or a clever composition, and always expressing the frustration when he comes across a subject that he doesn't have the right lens or vantage point to properly capture it from.
Oh my God, I just missed it. Oh, gee.
This old, bright red Volvo really caught my dad's attention, as he is a massive car guy himself. The Tromsø license plate was a brilliant touch as well.
This thing makes me want to get one of these, restore it, and have it as my daily driver. It's dang cool, I'll tell you.
We ended up taking a cable car to the top of a mountain that featured a beautiful viewpoint overlooking Tromsø. One of the fun things about Europe is that it's not too uncommon to have all sorts of infrastructure in place to ascend people to the top of mountains, and even more infrastructure waiting for you at the top. I decided to load up a unique roll of film that I had been hoarding for quite a while, Portra 400 BW. This is a black and white film stock that is developed using C41 chemicals. This seems to be a pretty rare film stock as I can't find it for sale anywhere. Despite this film being quite old and me being completely unaware of the prior storage conditions, the results turned out great. It's not too often that a black and white image ends up being one of my favorites from a trip, but I am super happy with this one. Compositionally, I think it's very pleasing to the eye, with the fence providing a leading line to the center of the frame and also splitting the image into 3 sections. And then the subject being 2 parents with their young child holding their hands as they walk into the distance just works extremely well for this setting. This is another personal favorite from the trip. My dad, in his favorite country, taking in the scenery. Black and white works exceptionally well for those more sentimental moments.
The seatbelt sign has now been switched off, but we still recommend you to keep it fastened during the entire flight.
An early flight out of Tromsø would take us to the town of Brae, which is the gateway to what should be the 8th wonder of the world, the Lofoten Islands. When my dad told me stories of his time in Norway, the way he described the Lofoten Islands sounded like complete folklore. A mythical land connected by an ecosystem of bridges with gigantic peaks rising straight out of the ocean. Well, he wasn't too far off. When I first visited this place in 2017, it absolutely blew me away, and it still does now. There's really nowhere else like it. Aside from being breathtakingly beautiful, the Lofoten Islands have a rich and interesting history. Up until the last half century, the biggest industry in Norway was cod, and these islands are the epicenter of cod fishing. There is evidence of human activity in Lofoten that dates back 11,000 years, before the Viking Age. During my visit in June of 2017, it seemed as though there were dozens and dozens of racks of drying cod hung up in each town throughout the islands. The process of drying cod into stockfish dates back to 800 CE. The Vikings would utilize the dried fish on long voyages, which led to the emergence of a stockfish market throughout Europe. And to this day, the Lofoten Islands remain a vital part of Norway's fishing industry. Despite the Lofoten Islands gaining mass popularity over the past decade, the place still feels unspoiled. It isn't an area that's been commercialized, it's easy to get off the beaten path and venture into some raw and rugged terrain, and just like Scotland, Norway has the right to roam, which means that the country's natural landscapes are available for all to enjoy, regardless of land ownership. This right comes with the expectation that those who partake will do so respectfully. But just like I mentioned in my Scotland video, this results in a photographer's paradise. Not having to worry about getting yelled at or having the cops called on you for venturing out into unknown territory to get a photo is a real luxury. Since it looked like the weather was going to be pretty rough during our time here, I decided to take advantage of a brief weather window and go on a walk around Gravdalsbukta, which is the bay adjacent to Rena. And boy did it feel good to be back in this area, capturing some of my favorite views on Earth. Way too optimistic when I came out here. I was like, it's gonna be clear. I'm gonna get a nice break in the clouds, break in the rain. And so far, not happening. Like, this shot is awesome right here. Oh, rainbow coming out. Oh my God. Oh, no way. Pretty much exclusively shooting Kodak Gold this trip. Great results. Love the color rendition of this film stock. Latitude's pretty good, especially if you home scan it. It's the type of place where even the telephone poles add to the shot. Incredible. It's really cool being here in this current state of photographical interest that I'm in right now. Having really slowed down as far as what I'm capturing and how often I'm capturing things over the past few years. I'm seeing this place in an entirely different way than how I saw it in 2017, which is good. It's nice to be here while I'm in a little bit of a more mature state, more mature phase in my life. I'm reasonably confident in my assessment that this is probably the most beautiful place that I've ever been. It's indescribable. No photo is gonna do this place justice. This is just like my favorite type of atmosphere to be in. Mountains, water, just a ton of history, interesting culture. Yeah, this is a really special place. My dumbass just thought I was done with this roll, and I cracked the film door open ever so slightly, but I still had one frame left. I didn't open it all the way, just literally barely opened it up, so hopefully it's not totally ruined. But I'm gonna load up another roll and reshoot this shot that I just took, and then reshoot the one previous to, just to be safe. All right, the light just totally changed. It looks really nice right now. We got some blue sky actually. And I got this composition framed up that I just shot, but there might be a light leak, I'm not sure. So I'm trying a little bit of a different style photo for this next one. I've got the polarizer and ND on the Mamiya 7, and I'm gonna do a 2-second exposure, smooth out the ripples in this water, get some of the reflection gone, just give me something different in case that first one turns out I'll have kind of a normal photo, and then this one, you know, a little bit of a different style. I like to do that if I'm reshooting something because I'm unsure about my exposure, or I, you know, might have a light leak or something like that. I like trying something new with my second frame just to have some variety in case that first one turns out. Unless I'm super pumped on the first one, compositionally and stylistically, then I'll just reshoot it. But I think this might be a little cooler, but I'm gonna shoot this right now before the light completely changes on me. All right, so 2-second exposure, 6 total stops of ND, 2 on the polarizer, 4 on the ND filter, F16. I'm hoping that blue sky in the background looks a bit nice. All right, I'm making my way over to my second to last composition. So I want to reshoot that as well. So for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. Ooh, we got some light on the mountains off in the distance too. But I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to also shoot this on the tripod. Slower shutter speed, get something different in case that first one turns out and there is no light leak on it. But look at this scene right now. Oh my goodness. Crazy. So this area is a bit marshy here, as I previously discovered. Oh boy. Nothing the Hokas can't withstand. It's crazy what a difference going from right there to right here can make. All right, for reshooting this one, I'm going 5 total stops of ND, 2 on the polarizer, 3 on the ND filter. It's gonna be 2 seconds at f16 again, and going portrait orientation here. This should look really nice, except the light just kind of got really dull. It was a lot nicer as I was setting up the shot, which is a classic situation I run into all the time. All right, let's do this 2 second exposure, f16. Well, my right boot has lost some waterproofing apparently because my toe is soaking wet. All right.
Goes round and round in circles, but I'm still on the ground. It's a dizzying day. I would give a lot to get away.
Well, how does it feel to be back in Lofoten?
I love it. Yeah, it's fantastic. Maybe the most beautiful place on earth. It's just spectacular.
The next day, my dad and I departed down the E10 highway in search of some good compositions, which aren't hard to come by here. The only challenge was battling the high winds and persistent rain. While not great for photography, this type of weather in a place like the Lofoten Islands only seems fitting. It certainly felt like we were getting an authentic Norwegian experience. All right, day 2 in Lofoten. The wind is brutal. Storm came rolling in last night, and I mean, the winds were so strong it was shaking our little cabin. You could literally feel the boards beneath our feet moving around. The walls were making all sorts of noise. Yeah, the rain has lightened up, but the wind is still incredibly strong. 60-mile-an-hour gusts today. Definitely not making it ideal for photography. It's looking like it's supposed to be a bit better tomorrow, so we're hoping for that. But we're driving north today, up the E10 highway, and just gonna do some sightseeing and try to pop out of the car every once in a while for some photo opportunities if we see any. Very stormy weather here in Lofoten. Hoping for a clearer day tomorrow. It's 1:07 on our last full day in Lofoten, and we finally have some halfway decent weather. The rain is very light, virtually non-existent at the moment. We even have some sun poking out. So we're gonna try to take advantage of this weather window and walk around this area. There's a stretch of road here that we haven't shot photos of yet, so we're gonna try to do that. I'm gonna load up this roll of gold in the Mamiya. Some decent light, so let's see what we can do. Every frame's a postcard. This photo of the small town of Hemnøy is possibly my favorite landscape of the trip, and I feel as though it captures the essence of the Lofoten Islands quite well. The small red cabins that line the region, unpredictable weather, the rocky, rugged landscape, and those ominous peaks that always seem to be lurking in the background. It's why this is one of the most unique and incredible locations on Earth. Driven past this really cool cabin with a boat laying out on the rocks next to it a couple of times now. Haven't stopped to grab the photo, but that's what I'm doing right now. I think this composition could be pretty sweet. Got some mountains in the background that are being lit up super nicely right now, so I'll try to frame this up. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot this on the 65 and the 43. It's just slightly too tight for the 65, I think, and barely too wide for the 43, so that 50mm lens for the Mamiya probably would be perfect for this particular frame, but I think, you know, with the 43 I'll just crop in if I need to. I'm gonna take one more of this subject. This next one that I'm gonna take is kind of the one that I envisioned, I think, when I first saw this. And it's just kind of a closer shot with the 65 of just the cabins and this boat on the rocks. Not really so much focusing on the mountains and town in the background, but there's still going to be, the mountains are still going to be poking up above the cabins a little bit in this frame. I think this will look cool. Literally, I mean, you wipe the lens off, new raindrops on the lens within half a second. There's nothing you can do about it. The problem with being a landscape photographer in a place like this is that there's simply too much to photograph. Everywhere you look, there's an incredible subject or composition, and you're constantly wanting to stop the car to photograph something that catches your eye. Unfortunately for me, this is always a stressful feeling, and I usually leave feeling unsatisfied. But I've learned that it's that feeling of discontent that keeps me coming back. Knowing that I'm going to go somewhere and not capture all there is to capture is simply fuel I can use for the next trip.
Obviously being here when it's sunny is incredible as well, but there's a lot of places where if you had this kind of weather, you wouldn't have these photo opportunities, in my opinion. I mean, you look at, like, everywhere you turn, there's another opportunity to take a photo.
For the final stop of our trip, we're heading to the town my dad spent 3 years living in and the place where I was born, Stavanger.
Oh my gosh, here we are, the homeland. Oh, I love it.
I'm not sure there's anywhere in the world my dad would rather be than right here, and that's understandable. Stavanger is Norway's third largest city and one of its most picturesque, and for my dad, it brings back a lot of memories. To settle in, we're heading to a pub that my mom and dad visited frequently during their time in Stavanger, the Irishman.
At the Irishman in Stavanger watching Premier Soccer, and they have a Brooklyn special effects hoppy lager, which is by far the best non-alcoholic beer I've ever had. And I'm going to have to figure out how I can get it in the United States. Anyway, you can see the color of it. Kind of a nice amber. And I'm telling you, nobody would be able to tell the difference between this and a regular alcohol beer. It's that good. Skål. Wonderful. Perfect. Life couldn't be better.
I figured it was about time for my dad to shoot a couple rolls on the Mamiya 7.2 to see how he fared with a rangefinder setup. Plus, we finally got a sunny day, and in my dad's favorite town in Norway nonetheless, so it only seemed to make sense to have him capture it on medium format film.
I can look in here. I mean, can I focus through the... Yeah. I need to decide what I want. I think I want to be down here.
All right, we got Mike on the Mamiya 7.2. First time he's shot 6x. Is this the first time you've ever shot 6x7?
That I know of, yeah.
First 6x7 experience.
Not much of a click on that. I know. God, it's awfully quiet. Yeah, I think that's the shot I'd want to get from down here. Let's move on.
After shooting a little bit in the harbor, we made our way up to the old town, known as Gamle Stavanger. This is the area that my parents owned a house in during the mid-90s. Today, it's a popular tourist attraction as the narrow cobblestone streets and old white buildings make it feel straight out of a fairy tale.
Oh, that stuff on my neck. This is on Dustmule. In fact, I'll have you videotape the sign so that, because nobody's going to understand me. You've already got it? very famous street in Stavanger. It looks more like a sidewalk, but I lived on this street in the mid-90s. So this house right here, Andasmua number 12, is a house that I owned, and you were born here in Stavanger, and you spent the first, I don't know, 6 months or so of your life in that house. And I do feel bad that I sold it, or I should say that we sold it, Terry and I. But it would have been kind of a difficult thing to manage from the state of Washington. I do remember waking up in the mornings, the bedroom's up there where that window is open, and we'd look out that window and you'd see these cruise ships in here. And you're still even looking up at them from that window. The house was built in 1837. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure that people outside of Norway, non-Norwegians, cannot buy these houses anymore. I could be wrong, but it was my understanding when we left that the commune had changed the rules, and because this is all a historic site, it's on their what would be their national registry. And I think all the houses in Gamle Stavanger were built between the mid-1700s and the very late 1800s. So this is Andasmua right here, and when you were, after you were born and screaming in your crib, and Terry couldn't get you to quiet down, she'd put you in the pram and wheel you down Andasmua here, and we would walk you all the way down this street, and there's a little park way down at the end. Of course, before we would even get to that park, you'd be dead asleep. There's something about bouncing in that pram and being outside, and so it was our go-to. Like, it put you to sleep every single time we did it. So this is, kind of the put Brae to sleep street.
Take me back to the old dirt road where Mama and Papa used to go. Let's sing all them songs from a long time ago and pine for them old days of yore. Well, let me run through the breeze like the leaves on the trees. Let me fly like the leaves when they fall. Well, let my mind go serene like a cool water stream that runs from the mountain so tall. Oh, take me back down the old dirt road.
Come home from school, just walk right down Andasmua here, go into town, get some fresh fish, bring it back up and cook it in the house. Being so close to the boggan and to the city center, it was just a perfect place to live. This was home. Still kind of feels like it.
Well, take me home to rest where the mockingbirds nest and to cry through the green in the spring. Let's go back a ways to the old bygone days and the simple time we lived back when. Well, let the pull of the plow bring the sweat from my brow and the glow of the fire pull me home. Let me wind down my days in the sweet dusty haze. Take me back down the old dirt road. Oh, take me back down the old dirt road. Take me back down the old dirt road.
Although this isn't the first time my dad and I have been back to Stavanger together, it's still as special as ever. My dad was the one who distilled in me at a very young age how important it is to travel, take risks, and seek out new experiences. It's the stories he told me when I was growing up about the adventures him and my mom would have traveling throughout Europe together that served as the building blocks for my love of exploring this world. And it's my dad's interest in photography that has led me to carry a camera around on all my adventures to capture my findings. I owe my dad a lot. He made me a curious person, and he gave me the means to stay curious no matter where I am in the world through photography. And now, to combine two of our favorite things, travel and photography, and to do so in a country that holds a special place in both of our hearts, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yikes. Okay, we're gonna go over there too.
Squarespace is much more than just a website building platform. You can use it to build a business, sell products, manage inventory, or host an online portfolio. One of my favorite aspects about Squarespace is that because of its extremely intuitive interface and wide selection of creative templates, you can have a professional website up and running in virtually no time, with zero coding required. There's also a new design intelligence feature that helps you get started with the creation of a new website, even if you're not super design savvy. Just punch in some basic info, select what features you'd like on your site, a color palette, and Squarespace will build a quick website that you can further customize to fit your needs. Maybe you're a photographer looking to get new inquiries and increase bookings. Clients can schedule a session directly on your site. Maybe you have a blog and want to offer additional content to community members. Squarespace offers memberships for those creating exclusive content. There's so many features that make Squarespace the one-stop shop for those looking to create or expand their business. If you'd like to receive 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, head over to squarespace.com/Brae or use code Brae at checkout to do so.